Too fragile for combat, the alien instructor said. Then the human broke his shield by stretching his training grounds stretched across the horizon like a city of metal and light. Towers of glass shimmered under the twin suns, and the air buzzed faintly with energy fields designed to simulate combat conditions. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved across the grounds with fluid grace, their movements precise and practiced. Some had 6 arms, some had wings, and some had skin that changed color with their emotions. All of them were fast, strong, and perfectly built for the kind of fighting the Academy demanded. In the middle of this buzzing scene stood a human named Ethan. He was small compared to the other trainees, with average muscle tone and a lean frame. His hair was brown and slightly messy, and his hands were calloused from years of ordinary human training. But in a place like this, that meant almost nothing. Ethan was aware of how he looked to the other trainees. Many glanced at him and shook their heads, muttering about how fragile humans were. Ethan had been prepared for this reaction. He had traveled across half the galaxy to join the Galactic Combat Academy, a place where only the best warriors trained. He knew he did not have the raw strength or the alien physiology to compete naturally, but he had something else: determination and a mind trained to think in ways no alien could. The instructor, a towering creature named Varkin, stood at the center of the training grounds. Varkin's 4 arms ended in sharp, claw-like fingers, and his armored scales shimmered in dark shades of blue. His voice boomed across the training field, echoing through the energy barriers. "Human," Varkin said, pointing one of his massive claws at Ethan. "Step forward." Ethan swallowed and moved to the front of the line. His heart beat faster, not from fear, but from excitement. This was his chance to prove that humans were not as fragile as the galaxy believed. Varkin examined him carefully. "You are too fragile for combat," the instructor said, his voice carrying a note of finality. "Your frame cannot withstand the strain of real battle. You will be a liability in any engagement." A few of the alien trainees snickered. Their laughter was quiet but sharp, and it cut into Ethan's skin like cold metal. He stood tall and said nothing. There was no point in arguing. Words could not convince them, only action could. The first exercise began. Energy shields hummed to life across the field, creating barriers that could withstand massive force. The trainees were supposed to break through the shields using a combination of weapons, hand-to-hand combat, and agility. Aliens with 4 arms easily swung their blades. Others used their tails or wings to strike from angles humans could not imagine. Ethan's turn came. He approached the first shield cautiously. It was a simple rectangular barrier of glowing blue energy, no thicker than a human doorway, but it radiated a force that could knock him off his feet if he misstepped. He tried pushing with his arms, then punching, then even attempting a headbutt, mimicking what he had seen the alien trainees do. Each attempt failed. The shield absorbed the impact and shimmered but did not break. He stumbled backward, and a few of the aliens snickered again. "See," one of them whispered to another. "Fragile, totally useless." Ethan clenched his fists but reminded himself to stay calm. He had already begun observing the patterns of the energy shield while waiting for his turn. He noticed tiny vibrations in the field, small enough that a human eye might miss them. Each pulse had a rhythm, a pattern that could be studied. He took a deep breath, slowing his heart and focusing his mind. Humans might not have 6 arms or tails, but humans had something aliens often overlooked: ingenuity and patience. He stepped forward again. This time, instead of brute force, he moved carefully, stretching his body in ways that made him longer, thinner, and more flexible. He bent sideways, ducked, and twisted his torso. The shield vibrated slightly as he moved. The instructor raised a claw in disapproval. "Stop wasting your time. You will never break it." But Ethan did not stop. He observed the shield, noticing how the vibrations shifted when he moved. He experimented with a stretch. elongating his arms and legs, and then applied a small, carefully aimed force at a weak point he had spotted in the energy pattern. The shield did not shatter, but it flickered, a small part of it bending under pressure. It was not much, but it was enough for Ethan to understand. Brute strength alone would not break the shield, but precise movement, timing, and the unique flexibility of a human body could exploit weaknesses. For the next hour, Ethan practiced quietly while other trainees continued with raw force attacks. He twisted, stretched, balanced, and calculated every move. Each time he failed, he noted why and adjusted. The alien trainees barely noticed him, assuming the human would never succeed. During a break, one of the other aliens, a tall, winged warrior named Chiral, approached him. "Why do you even bother?" Chiral asked. His wings folded behind him. "You will never be strong enough. None of your tricks will matter when real combat begins." Ethan smiled faintly. "Strength isn't everything," he said. "Sometimes it's how you use what you have that matters most." Chiral shook his head, unconvinced, and walked away. Ethan returned to his exercises, stretching his muscles, focusing his balance, and imagining the shield cracking under the right combination of movement and force. By the end of the day, most of the aliens had completed the exercises with ease, smashing their shields with sheer strength. Ethan had not broken his yet, but he had learned something crucial. Observation and adaptability could give him an edge no alien possessed naturally. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with orange and purple hues, Varkin gathered the trainees. He towered over them, his claws clicking against the metal floor. His gaze fell on Ethan, and for the first time there was a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. "You did not break the shield," Varkin said, "but you did something unusual. You observe, you adapt, you do not rely solely on strength. Perhaps humans are not as fragile as I thought." Ethan nodded respectfully. He did not celebrate or boast. He knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come in the days ahead, in challenges that would push him to his limits. That night, as Ethan lay on his simple bunk, he thought about the shield and the vibrations he had noticed. He traced the patterns in his mind, imagining ways to exploit them further. He stretched his arms and legs, testing his limits, and whispered to himself, "I may be fragile, but I will find a way." Outside, the academy shimmered under the twin moons, quiet except for the hum of energy barriers and distant training sounds. For Ethan, the night was alive with possibilities. Each failure was a step closer to success, each observation a secret advantage. The other trainees rested, confident in their strength. They would wake to the same routines tomorrow, relying on what had always worked for them. But Ethan's mind was already moving ahead, thinking of angles, stretches, and maneuvers no one else would consider. And somewhere deep inside, a small fire of determination burned brighter than any alien strength. The next day promised challenges. The aliens believed him fragile, but Ethan knew better. And he was ready to prove it. The morning light spilled across the academy grounds, illuminating the sleek metal towers and the shimmering energy barriers. Alien trainees were already awake, moving in synchronized drills that combined speed, strength, and precision. Wings stretched, claws flexed, and tails swayed in perfect harmony. Every movement spoke of years of practice and natural advantage. Ethan watched quietly from the edge of the training field. Unlike the others, he did not rush into the exercises. Instead, he focused on observing. He studied the motions of the aliens, noticing subtle patterns in the way they moved their bodies and used their weapons. Every swing, every step, every shield placement followed a rhythm, almost like a dance. The human's mind worked differently. Where the aliens relied on raw power and instinct, Ethan sought logic and patterns. He sketched diagrams in his notebook, noting angles, speeds, and timings. Each observation was a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle he intended to solve in his own way. Varkin, the towering four-armed instructor, walked past him, his gaze sharp and assessing. "Human," he said, voice like rolling thunder, "you are slow to act. Observation alone will not save you in battle." Ethan looked up calmly. "I understand, instructor," he replied. "But observation will help me act more effectively." Varkin raised an eyebrow but said nothing further. He moved on to check on other trainees, who were smashing practice shields with brute force. Most aliens barely noticed Ethan. He was small, fragile-looking, and their confidence in their strength made them careless. That carelessness would become his advantage. The first exercise of the day involved dual shield combat. Each trainee was paired with a partner and had to defend against energy strikes while attempting to penetrate the other's defenses. Most aliens used overwhelming power, slamming their shields together or striking repeatedly with their multi-limbed weapons. The sound of clashing energy hummed across the training field. When it was Ethan's turn, he faced a large alien with thick, golden scales and four powerful arms. The alien raised its shield and advanced, confident and slow, relying on strength. Ethan noticed immediately that the energy barrier of the shield had a subtle oscillation, a pulse that weakened briefly at regular intervals. Most trainees would not have noticed this. Humans often lacked physical advantage, but their curiosity and attention to detail could make up for it. Ethan waited, analyzing the rhythm of the shield pulse. Then he moved, not with force but with careful, calculated stretching and bending. He twisted his torso, extended his arms, and lunged with precision, using the timing he had observed. The alien's shield flickered, its energy faltering for a fraction of a second. Ethan's hands met the shield at the exact moment of weakness. He did not break it completely, but he pushed the energy field backward enough to gain ground. The other aliens paused mid-strike, surprised by the human's agility and timing. Chiral, the winged alien who had mocked him before, tilted his head in disbelief. "How?" he whispered. Ethan straightened, breathing evenly. "I watch and learn," he said simply. The instructor Varkin observed from a distance. His eyes narrowed. He had underestimated humans before, but Ethan was showing a skill even aliens rarely mastered: adaptability. He did not rely on what was natural or expected. He was using his body in ways aliens could not anticipate. After the exercise, Ethan found a quiet corner of the training grounds. He practiced his stretches and studied the shields again. He tested the limits of his flexibility, reaching farther, twisting more, and timing his movements with precision. Small improvements added up quickly. His body, though not strong by alien standards, had a unique advantage. It was versatile, and he was learning to exploit it. By midday, a small group of aliens began to notice. They whispered among themselves, watching Ethan stretch, bend, and maneuver with methodical determination. "It is strange," said one, a four-armed fighter with green scales. "He is weak but somehow effective." Ethan heard none of this. He was focused on a new experiment. Instead of attacking the shield head-on, he tried moving around it in a series of flowing motions, stretching his arms over his head, twisting his torso sideways, and extending his legs to shift his balance. The shield's energy fluctuated under these unusual angles, and again, it faltered briefly. The aliens around him gasped. They had never seen anyone move like this. Most of them relied on brute force, and their bodies were not designed for such flexibility. They could strike harder and faster, yes, but they could not contort, pivot, or exploit timing in the way Ethan could. Varkin strode over, his massive claws clicking against the ground. He observed Ethan silently for a moment before speaking. "You rely on your body differently than we do," he said. "You are slow, but your movements are unpredictable. That is valuable. Most humans would never attempt this, but you adapt. That is rare." Ethan nodded, silently pleased. Praise from Varkin was rare, and acknowledgement of his approach even rarer. He knew he had to continue developing his skills. Strength alone would never be enough, and he needed to prove that human ingenuity could surpass alien power. For the next few hours, Ethan experimented with small maneuvers, stretching in ways that alien physiology could not imitate. He learned to twist his torso to avoid direct energy strikes, to extend his arms and legs to push against shields at strange angles, and to time his movements with subtle vibrations in the energy fields. Each trial built on the last, and slowly he began to see results. By evening, the instructors called an advanced challenge. This exercise combined multiple shields, moving barriers, and timed attacks. It was designed to test both strength and strategy. The aliens charged with full force, smashing through shields, relying on muscle and instinct. Ethan moved differently. He watched, calculated, stretched, and shifted with precision. When the first wave of strikes came, he avoided them with fluid movements, slipping past shields that had seemed impossible to penetrate. He applied his small but exact force at the correct moments, bending energy fields just enough to create openings. Aliens around him stopped to watch, their confidence faltering. Chiral stepped forward, wings spreading wide. "Show me again," he said, almost as if he did not believe it was real. Ethan demonstrated the maneuver slowly, emphasizing timing and stretching. The shield faltered at the right moment. It was not a complete victory, but it was enough to turn heads. Aliens murmured in amazement, and even Varkin raised a claw in approval. After the exercise, Ethan retreated to a quiet training room. He sat cross-legged and reflected on the day. Observation and ingenuity had allowed him to compete in a way no alien could replicate. His body, small and seemingly fragile, was now a tool, honed by patience, intelligence, and practice. For the first time, he allowed himself a small smile. The other trainees still underestimated him. They still believed humans were weak, but Ethan knew the truth. Strength was not everything. Adaptability, focus, and creativity could surpass raw power, and he intended to prove it, one exercise at a time. The night fell over the academy, casting long shadows across the training grounds. Ethan stretched one last time before resting, feeling the muscles in his back and legs lengthen and release. Every movement had a purpose, every stretch a lesson. Somewhere in the distance, alien voices carried, confident and loud. They did not yet understand the quiet power of a human who observed, adapted, and refused to be dismissed. Ethan lay down, eyes closed, but his mind was already moving ahead. He imagined new angles, new stretches, new ways to turn weakness into advantage. And deep inside, a quiet flame burned stronger than any alien strength. The next day promised new challenges. The aliens believed him fragile, but Ethan knew better. And he was ready to show them that human ingenuity could overcome even the most powerful force. The training grounds were alive with activity as the sun rose over the twin moons of the planet. Aliens of every shape and size ran drills, sparred with each other, and practiced the skills that had made them legends in the galaxy. Their movements were precise and confident. Each strike, each block, each dodge reflected years of natural advantage and instinctive strength. Ethan stood at the edge of the field, watching carefully. Today was different. Today he would face a real challenge, his first one-on-one combat simulation against a top alien trainee. This was not a simple exercise. The energy field surrounding the training ground would simulate the effects of a battlefield, testing reaction speed, strength, strategy, and adaptability. Most trainees would rely on their natural advantages, multiple limbs, wings, tails, or natural armor. Ethan had none of those. The alien instructor Varkin approached him, his four arms flexed as he studied the human carefully. "This trial will determine how you respond under pressure," he said. "Do not fail. You will not have another chance." Ethan nodded, his heart steady. Fear was present, but he did not let it control him. He had spent days observing, learning, and stretching. He had discovered weaknesses, patterns, and openings. Today was the day to test whether human ingenuity could match alien power. His opponent was Corin, a massive alien warrior with golden scales, 4 muscular arms, and claws sharp enough to pierce metal. Corin's reputation was well known in the Academy. Few had survived a full simulation against him without injury. He towered over Ethan, his sheer size and strength intimidating to anyone. The arena shimmered to life, energy barriers humming and shifting in patterns that simulated a real battlefield. Varkin stepped back, watching intently. "Begin," he commanded. Corin lunged forward, his first strike aimed directly at Ethan's chest. Most humans would have been flattened instantly. But Ethan had observed patterns in the energy fields and learned how to use his body in ways the aliens could not anticipate. He twisted sideways, stretching his arms to deflect part of the strike and ducking just enough to avoid the full force. The energy shield around him pulsed but held. Corin's eyes narrowed. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, the human moved with fluidity and precision, slipping past attacks with a combination of flexibility and timing. Each strike that missed built Corin's frustration. Ethan noticed the rhythm of Corin's attacks. The alien relied on power and momentum, swinging his claws with repeated force. Each strike created a small vibration in the simulated battlefield, an echo of energy that Ethan could feel if he concentrated. Humans were not naturally strong, but they were observant. And Ethan had trained his mind to notice patterns no alien could. With careful timing, Ethan moved into a low, twisted stance, extending one arm to push against the edge of Corin's shield. The energy flickered, bending slightly under the unexpected angle. He could feel the tiny shift. He followed up with a series of small, calculated movements, stretching his legs to twist and pivot around Corin, testing each opening for weakness. Corin roared and swung again, faster and harder, but Ethan's body moved differently. He bent, stretched, and rotated in ways Corin could not anticipate. Each strike that should have landed instead passed harmlessly over, under, or around him. The other trainees watched in astonishment. Many had dismissed Ethan as fragile, but now they were witnessing something unusual. The human was not strong, not fast in the alien sense, yet he was holding his own against one of the most powerful trainees in the Academy. Varkin's eyes narrowed. He had underestimated the human's ability to adapt. Ethan's movements were clever, resourceful, and precise. It was not strength that made him effective, it was intelligence, observation, and timing. Corin paused for a moment, breathing heavily. "How?" he muttered. He had faced many opponents, but none had moved like this. None had used their body in such unpredictable ways. Ethan did not pause. He had spotted a small, consistent flaw in Corin's defensive posture, a moment when one arm extended too far, leaving a tiny gap in the energy shield. It was a brief window, only a fraction of a second, but it was enough. He shifted, twisting his torso and extending his arm in a smooth, fluid motion. His fingers brushed the edge of Corin's shield at the precise moment the energy weakened. There was a flicker, a small bend in the shield, just enough to create an opening. Ethan did not hesitate. He pushed forward with a controlled, deliberate motion, using the energy of his own stretch to apply force in the perfect angle. The shield cracked, not completely, but enough to stagger Corin. The massive alien stumbled, surprised by the human's unexpected maneuver. The other trainees gasped. Some whispered in disbelief. Varkin's eyes widened slightly. "Interesting," he murmured. "The human is not strong, yet he manipulates the battlefield in a way few can match." Corin regained his balance and roared, swinging his claws in a furious combination of attacks. Ethan anticipated each strike, twisting, stretching, and pivoting with precision. He used his opponent's momentum against him, dodging and redirecting energy where it could not harm him. The simulation continued for minutes that felt like hours. Sweat glistened on Ethan's brow, and his muscles ached from stretching and pivoting continuously. Yet he did not falter. Every movement was calculated. Every adjustment exploited a tiny weakness in the alien's strength or timing. Finally, a decisive moment arrived. Corin raised his shield for a massive overhead strike, intending to crush Ethan instantly. The human moved differently this time. He shifted his weight, twisted his torso, and extended both arms in a stretch that bent his body in a way no alien could imitate. He applied force at the exact point where the shield was weakest, just as he had observed. With a sharp crack, the shield splintered and faltered. Corin's attack failed. The massive alien stumbled back, completely surprised. Ethan stood his ground, breathing steadily, his body tense but controlled. For the first time, the other trainees saw what humans could do. They were not strong in the alien sense, but they were clever, adaptable, and resourceful. Every advantage they had relied on brute force. Ethan relied on observation, timing, and flexibility. And in this moment, it had made him victorious. Varkin approached, his massive form casting a shadow over the human. He studied Ethan carefully, his voice calm but filled with respect. "You have proven something unusual today," he said. "Strength alone does not determine the outcome of battle. Adaptability, timing, and ingenuity are equally, if not more, important. You are not as fragile as I once thought." Ethan nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Instructor. I learned by observing and understanding the patterns. That is how I can overcome strength." The other trainees murmured among themselves. Some were amazed. Some were angry that a human had managed what they could not. Chiral, the winged alien who had mocked him before, stepped forward slowly, his wings folding slightly. "You moved in ways I cannot replicate," he admitted. "It is impressive." Ethan did not boast. He simply stretched slightly, flexing his arms and legs. "I used what I have," he said. "That is all." As the sun set, casting long shadows over the training grounds, Ethan sat quietly, reflecting on the trial. He had faced one of the most powerful trainees and survived. More than survived, he had succeeded using skill and ingenuity rather than strength. Varkin's words echoed in his mind. Strength alone does not determine the outcome of battle. The Instructor had underestimated him, as had most of the aliens. But Ethan knew that his advantage was not in his muscles or speed. It was in his mind, his body, and the ability to adapt where others relied on instinct. The night fell over the academy, and the stars above twinkled brightly. Ethan stretched one last time before resting, feeling the tension in his muscles release. Every movement, every calculation, every observation had brought him closer to understanding his true strength. The other trainees still underestimated him, still believed humans were fragile, but Ethan knew better. He had survived his first true combat trial, and he had proven that human ingenuity could overcome even the most powerful alien strength. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, harder simulations, and perhaps even more formidable opponents. But Ethan was ready. He had discovered the secret that no alien had mastered, the combination of observation, flexibility, timing, and creativity. And deep inside, a quiet fire burned brighter than any alien strength. Ethan closed his eyes, smiling faintly. The trial was over, but the real journey was just beginning. The sun rose slowly over the academy, casting long, golden beams across the training grounds. The day was warmer than usual, and the energy barriers hummed softly under the twin suns. Every trainee moved with purpose, preparing for the day's challenges, but the focus of attention was on one human, Ethan. Today's exercise was the final test of the week, a challenge designed to push every trainee to their limits. At the center of the field stood a massive energy shield, larger and stronger than anything the trainees had faced before. It pulsed with glowing blue energy, radiating force in all directions. This was the unbreakable shield, a simulation that even the strongest aliens had struggled to overcome. Varkin, The towering four-armed instructor addressed the trainees. "This shield is designed to withstand overwhelming force," he said, his voice like rolling thunder. "Many of you will fail. Only those who can think beyond strength will succeed." Ethan's heart raced with excitement. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. He had spent days observing, stretching, and learning. He knew that his small frame would not crush the shield by force alone, but he also knew the advantage humans possessed: ingenuity and flexibility. The first wave of trainees stepped forward. Aliens with multiple arms, wings, and claws attacked the shield with full force, smashing, slamming, and striking repeatedly. The energy barrier flickered under the blows but did not crack. The instructors nodded, noting the patterns of each trainee's attack. Most relied entirely on raw strength, and the shield's energy pulses easily absorbed it. Finally, it was Ethan's turn. He stepped forward calmly, ignoring the whispers of doubt from the other trainees. "Fragile human," some of them muttered. "This will be easy." Ethan paid them no mind. He approached the shield slowly, observing its pulsing energy. He noticed small vibrations at regular intervals, tiny weaknesses that occurred when the shield absorbed the impact of a strike. The aliens had never paid attention to these subtle shifts, but humans could notice them. He took a deep breath and stretched his arms above his head, feeling his muscles lengthen and relax. Then he twisted his torso, bent sideways, and shifted his weight to test his balance. Every movement was calculated. Every twist, stretch, and step was designed to exploit the shield's pattern. Varkin watched silently, intrigued. He had seen Ethan's ingenuity before, but this would be the ultimate test. Could the human truly break what no alien could? The first attempt was simple. Ethan applied a small, precise force at the shield's edge during a brief moment of weakness. The energy flickered, but the shield remained solid. He retreated, analyzing the result. Even a small bend in the shield's surface gave him valuable information. He tried again, combining a forward stretch with a pivot and a twisting motion of his torso. The shield hummed and vibrated, but still held firm. The other trainees began to murmur in disbelief. Ethan was not using brute force, yet his movements were causing noticeable fluctuations in the shield's energy. Chiral, the winged alien who had doubted him before, whispered to another trainee, "How is he doing this? He's not strong enough." Ethan ignored the whispers. His focus was absolute. He remembered the patterns he had observed in Corrin's attacks, the way energy shifted under force, and the unique flexibility of his own body. He realized that breaking the shield would not require raw strength. It would require stretching his body to angles no alien could manage and applying force at exactly the right time. He stretched his legs wide, twisted his torso, and extended his arms above and around his head in a series of fluid movements. His body seemed to flow, bending and stretching with precision. He timed his push to match the shield's pulse perfectly. A small crack appeared at the edge of the shield, a tiny line of weakness. The other trainees gasped. They had never seen the shield even bend under an attack, let alone crack. Varkin's eyes narrowed, and for the first time there was a flicker of admiration in his gaze. Ethan did not pause. He continued, twisting, stretching, and leaning into the shield at angles that defied conventional combat techniques. The crack widened slightly. Sweat ran down his brow and his muscles ached from the strain, but he refused to stop. Every stretch, every pivot, every subtle shift of weight brought him closer to victory. The shield pulsed violently, resisting his efforts. It radiated a force strong enough to knock any alien trainee off balance, yet Ethan's control was perfect. He used the energy of his own stretching movements to counter the shield's force, turning what should have been a weakness into an advantage. Finally, a decisive moment arrived. Ethan bent backward, extending his body in a long, flowing motion. He twisted his torso, extended both arms, and applied force to the shield's most vulnerable point. the edge that had weakened slightly with each attempt. With a sharp crack, the shield fractured. A section of the energy barrier splintered, bending and shattering under the precise combination of timing, flexibility, and technique. The training ground fell silent. Even the other trainees were frozen in astonishment. They had never seen anyone, alien or human, break the unbreakable shield. Varkin stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over Ethan. "Remarkable," he said, his voice low but filled with respect. "You have done what no alien has managed. You rely on strength differently. You adapt, you think, you overcome." Ethan straightened, breathing heavily but steadily. He did not boast, he simply nodded. "I used what I had," he said. "Observation, flexibility, timing, that is my strength." Chiral approached slowly, his wings folded in respect. "I doubted you," he admitted. "I thought humans were weak, fragile, but you are something different. You are clever. You see what others cannot. You fight in a way we cannot replicate." Ethan smiled faintly. "We all have strengths," he said. "Some are visible, some are hidden. I just found a way to use mine." Varkin extended one claw and touched the fractured shield, examining the break. "This is a lesson for all of you," he said to the other trainees. "Strength alone does not guarantee victory. Adaptability, intelligence, and creativity can surpass brute force. This human has shown us that even the most fragile appearance can hide true power." The other trainees murmured, some in awe, some in disbelief. They had underestimated Ethan, as most had underestimated humans. But today, he had proven that human ingenuity, observation, and flexibility could defeat even the strongest defenses. Ethan stepped back from the broken shield, stretching his arms and legs to release tension. His body ached, but it was a good kind of ache, the kind that came from testing limits and discovering new abilities. He had faced the ultimate challenge and emerged victorious. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, Varkin addressed the group once more. "Remember what you have seen today," he said. "Never underestimate a mind that observes, adapts, and learns. Strength alone is not everything. Ingenuity can turn the smallest opponent into a force to be reckoned with." Ethan walked quietly away, leaving the other trainees to discuss the event. He did not need their recognition. He had proven to himself what he was capable of. The fire inside him burned brighter than ever, fueled by the knowledge that humans could compete with, and even surpass, alien strength through intelligence, creativity, and adaptability. That night, as Ethan rested on his bunk, he reflected on the day. He had faced what seemed unbreakable and succeeded. He had used his body in ways no alien could imitate. And he had demonstrated that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, could achieve greatness through thought, observation, and careful planning. The academy was quiet, but Ethan's mind was alive with ideas. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opponents, and new simulations. But he was ready. He had discovered the true power of his human abilities, and nothing could stop him from continuing to prove that strength was more than muscle. And deep within him, a quiet, unyielding fire burned, stronger than any alien strength, brighter than any doubt, and ready to face whatever came next. The morning sun shone brightly over the academy, casting long golden rays across the training grounds. After the events of the previous day, the air was different, charged with curiosity and anticipation. Alien trainees moved with purpose, but their conversations had changed. Whispers of the human's victory over the unbreakable shield had spread across the academy, and everyone wanted to see him in action again. Ethan arrived quietly, stretching as he walked. His body moved smoothly, muscles flexing and lengthening with precision. Today's exercise was designed to test strategy and teamwork. Trainees would face a series of moving energy barriers, obstacles, and opponents in a simulated battlefield. Many of the aliens assumed that strength would dominate again. Few believed that a human could have any significant advantage. Varkin, The four-armed instructor addressed the group, his voice carrying authority and attention. "This exercise will push you all to your limits," he said. "Strength and instinct alone will not guarantee success. Observe your opponents, understand the battlefield, and adapt. Remember what you learned yesterday." Ethan nodded silently. He remembered every lesson, every observation, and every moment of stretching that had given him control over the unbreakable shield. Today would be more difficult. This exercise required movement, quick thinking, and collaboration under pressure, but he felt ready. The simulation began. Energy barriers shifted unpredictably, glowing with bright blue light. Hollow projections of alien opponents moved with speed and precision, testing every trainee. Most of the aliens relied on brute force, charging, smashing, and striking at the barriers and holograms. Many were successful at first, pushing objects aside, but soon they found themselves trapped or off balance when obstacles shifted. Ethan moved differently. He did not rush. Instead, he observed the patterns of the barriers, noting the timing and rhythm of each movement. When a hologram attacked, he watched the angle and speed, twisting and stretching his body to avoid the strike. Every step was calculated, every motion precise. The other trainees began to notice. The human who had once seemed fragile was now moving with fluid grace, dodging attacks, slipping past obstacles, and finding openings that the aliens had missed entirely. His unique use of flexibility and timing allowed him to pass through areas that seemed impossible. Chiral, the winged alien who had doubted him before, flew alongside a teammate, watching Ethan closely. "He moves in ways we cannot even predict," Chiral said quietly. "It is not strength, it is strategy, ingenuity." Ethan reached a section where two massive energy barriers crossed at sharp angles, forming a narrow passage. Most aliens would have tried to force their way through, risking collision or losing balance. Ethan paused for a moment, analyzing the angles and vibrations in the energy fields. Then he stretched his body, bending sideways, twisting his torso, and sliding through the narrow gap with a grace no alien could match. A few trainees attempted to follow, but they stumbled. Their bodies were built for strength, not flexibility, and they could not replicate the human's movements. Ethan's approach gave him an edge that no brute force could overcome. Varkin observed quietly from above, his eyes narrowing with interest. "Observation, adaptation, and creativity," he murmured. "This human continues to prove that strength is not the only measure of a warrior." The final challenge of the simulation arrived. A massive holographic opponent with multiple energy shields and an unpredictable attack pattern. The other trainees charged forward, swinging limbs and weapons, only to be blocked at every turn. The hologram's shields shimmered and pulsed, repelling every strike with ease. Ethan approached carefully. He watched the pattern of the hologram's attacks, noting the subtle shifts in energy and the timing of its strikes. Then he began to move, stretching, twisting, and bending his body at angles the hologram's programming could not anticipate. Each movement was calculated to exploit the tiny openings in the shields, slipping past attacks that would have crushed a normal trainee. The other trainees stopped to watch. They realized that brute force alone would not defeat this opponent, but the human moved in a way that combined strategy, observation, and flexibility. Every dodge, every stretch, every pivot allowed him to get closer to the core of the hologram's defense. Finally, with a series of precise, fluid motions, Ethan applied force at the exact points of weakness he had observed. The holographic shields flickered, cracked, and finally dissipated, leaving the core vulnerable. Ethan tapped it gently, completing the simulation successfully. The training ground erupted in applause. The aliens, who had once laughed at him for being fragile, now stared in awe. Even Chiral's eyes were wide with respect. The human had done what no alien had managed. He had completed the simulation flawlessly, using intelligence, observation, and unique human flexibility. Varkin descended from his observation post, his massive form casting a shadow over Ethan. "You have surpassed expectations," he said, his voice filled with approval. "Your victory is not one of raw power, but of ingenuity, adaptation, and careful observation. You have shown that humans are not fragile, they are capable, clever, and resilient. You have earned the respect of this academy." Ethan bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Instructor," he said. "I only used what I had, my mind, my body, and my determination." Varkin extended a claw and touched Ethan's shoulder lightly. "Remember this," he said. "Strength is valuable, but understanding, adaptability, and creativity can be just as powerful, sometimes even more so. Humans have a unique gift that other species often underestimate." The other trainees approached slowly, some hesitantly, others eagerly. They wanted to learn from him, to understand how a human had accomplished what they could not. Chiral stepped forward first, wings folded respectfully. "I was wrong to doubt you," Chiral admitted. "You have proven that humans are not fragile. You fight in a way that challenges everything we thought we knew." Ethan smiled. "We all have strengths," he said. "Some are obvious, some are hidden. The key is to find them and use them wisely." The other trainees nodded, inspired by his words. They realized that human ingenuity could compete with alien strength, that careful observation and adaptability could turn a perceived weakness into an advantage. That evening, as the academy quieted, Ethan sat alone on a hill overlooking the training grounds. The twin moons rose, casting a soft glow over the towers and energy barriers. He stretched slowly, reflecting on the week's events. He had faced impossible challenges, been underestimated by everyone, and yet had proven himself. He thought about the future. More training, more simulations, and more challenges would come. But he knew that humans had something special, the ability to adapt, to observe, and to overcome. Today, the aliens had seen it. Tomorrow, he would continue to show it. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You have inspired us," Varkin said, standing behind him. "Not only have you proven your own abilities, but you have reminded everyone here that power is not only measured by muscle or size. Your ingenuity is a lesson for all of us." Ethan nodded quietly. "I just want to do my best," he said, "and show that humans can be strong in ways others might not expect." Varkin smiled faintly, a rare expression for the stoic Instructor. "You have done more than that," he said. "You have changed the way we think. Humans are no longer underestimated here. Your name will be remembered in this academy." As the moons rose higher, Ethan looked out at the training grounds. The other trainees were quietly practicing, some incorporating techniques they had observed from him. Even Chiral and a few others were experimenting with movements they had never considered. His influence was already spreading. For Ethan, this was not about fame or recognition. It was about proving a truth, that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, possess strength in ways no one else could match. Intelligence, observation, adaptability, and creativity, these were the true marks of power, and with that knowledge he felt a quiet pride. He had begun as the human everyone dismissed, but now he was the one who had changed the rules of the academy. He had shown that being underestimated was not a weakness, it could be a hidden advantage. The twin moons reflected off the energy barriers, casting long, glowing lines across the field. Ethan stood, stretched one last time, and smiled. The future was full of challenges, but he was ready. Humans were capable, clever, and resilient. And he had proven it to everyone who doubted him. The fire inside him burned brighter than any alien strength. And for the first time, Ethan truly understood the meaning of being human, strong, adaptable, and unstoppable in ways the galaxy had never expected.